The LA Kings are the most pathetic team in NHL history when it comes to signing free agents. That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Kings fans. Welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show wrapping up the night in the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. We've been talking about the possibility of the LA Kings signing a big name free agent this offseason because, well, it's fun to talk about. Mitch Marner, Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, Brock Besser. Fans can't get enough talk about where these guys are going. And others this coming season. I can tell you this. If Mitch Marner were to come to LA, it would be the biggest free agent signing in franchise history. And it's not even close. As a matter of fact, you would be hard-pressed to find another NHL team that has never signed a big-time player in free agency. The LA Kings haven't, ever. You look at any list of the Kings' top players in their history. Anze Kopitar, Luc Robitaille, Drew Doughty, Dustin Brown, Jonathan Quick, Rob Blake, Dave Taylor, Bernie Nichols, Butch Goring, Larry Murphy, Alec Martinez, Jim Fox. They were all drafted by the LA Kings. Wayne Gretzky, Marcel Dion, Rogie Vachon, Jeff Carter, Charlie Simmer, Yari Curry, Kelly Rudy, Tony Granato, Justin Williams, Ziggy Palffy, Marian Gaborik. They were all acquired in trades by the LA Kings. Now, I feel like I'm a pretty knowledgeable Kings fan. And I honestly couldn't tell you off the top of my head who's the greatest free agent signing the LA Kings have ever had. So the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to know the answer. So I did some research, and here's what I got. Defenseman Steve Duchesne was signed as a free agent by the LA Kings on October 1st, 1984. However, he wasn't a big-time player signed away from another team. He was a free agent because no one drafted him. He played his first 6 seasons in the NHL in LA, scored 99 goals, and had 315 points in 442 games. Nice numbers. And he went on to play over 100 NHL games. Pretty good for a guy that wasn't drafted, but he was not a star player. And again, he wasn't signed as a free agent in the offseason away from another team. Defenseman Rob Scuderi signed with the Kings as a free agent July 2nd, 2009 to a 4-year, $13.6 million contract. He played 4 seasons with the Kings and was a part of the first Stanley Cup winning team ever in franchise history. He was a nice defensive defenseman. He had Stanley Cup experience. He came over and shared some of that experience and helped the Kings get over the top, finally winning a cup. But star player, Rob Scuderi, no. Defenseman Willie Mitchell signed with the Kings as a free agent August 25th of 2010. 2-year deal worth $3.5 million per season. He played 3 seasons in LA, was also a part of the Kings' first Stanley Cup winning team. Again, nice signing. Helped the Kings win a cup. Solid veteran, not a star player. Now, if you want to talk about just big names, I guess you'd have to mention forward Ilya Kovalchuk. Now, he attempted a comeback to the NHL after playing 6 seasons in his native Russia, and the Kings signed him on June of 2018 to a 3-year deal worth $6.25 million per season. At 35 years old, he was well past his prime, and he ended up playing a total of 81 games for the Kings over parts of 2 seasons. He had a total of 19 goals and 43 points. In his prime, he was a big-time NHL star. But of course, the Kings got him at the end when he was just another guy. So that's it. That's the list. And when Rob Scuderi, Willie Mitchell, Steve Duchesne, and an over-the-hill Ilya Kovalchuk are the best free agent signings in franchise history, that speaks for itself. Now, maybe I'm missing someone. I don't think so. If you know of somebody that I missed, let me know. But that's pretty crazy if you think about it. The Los Angeles Kings, big market, big city, franchise valued at $2.9 billion, the 4th highest in the NHL. And that's a franchise that has never landed a big-time free agent. Now, to be fair, We don't know how close the Kings may have come to signing a big-time free agent over the years. Maybe they just missed out a couple of times here and there. They supposedly tried to get Mikko Rantanen this past year, but he wasn't interested in coming to LA. And hey, the Kings did pull off the greatest trade in NHL history, one of the greatest trades in sports history when number 99 came to LA. So the trades have been big. The free agent signings, not so much. So are the Kings going to be in on Mitch Marner, the biggest free agent available this year? Well, for what it's worth, and thanks to friend of the show, Russell Morgan from Hockey Royalty, for finding this and posting it on social media. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you will see this, but there is some betting odds out there as far as which NHL team has the best odds of landing Mitch Marner. Something from Cool Bet listed the LA Kings as the favorite. They had the Kings at a plus 450, followed by the Golden Knights at 550, Toronto at 600, the Blackhawks at 700, Carolina also 700. Then I had the Sharks, Ducks, Blue Jackets, and Penguins. I am not familiar with Cool Bet. I don't know where they get these odds from. Did they just kind of pull them out of their pocket? I have no idea, but kind of nice to see the Kings at the top of the list there. As for our good friends over at FanDuel, they see it differently. They have the Chicago Blackhawks as the favorite to get Mitch Marner at a plus 250. Then they've got Carolina next at a plus 340, Toronto at plus 430, Vegas at plus 650, the Ducks check in at plus 850, and then the LA Kings at plus 1100. Quite the difference between those two betting sites. Why is it vastly different? I don't know. Ultimately, what does it mean? Probably not much. The Athletic recently had an article about the top 10 teams that could be the most aggressive this offseason, and it was nice to see the LA Kings were on that list. They also had an article about what teams are the best fit for Mitch Marner, and the LA Kings were on that list as well. Matter of fact, they were listed as one of the teams that was the best fit, and the quote in the article about the Kings getting Mitch Marner was, quote, "The Kings won't be the front runner, but they're certainly in the mix," end quote. Also, the same article that listed the top 50 free agents available this offseason, there were a couple of Kings on there. Defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov was listed at number 8 behind Marner, Sam Bennett, John Tavares, Nikolai Ehlers, Aaron Ekblad, Brad Marchand, and Brock Besser. Andrei Kuzmenko checked in at number 32 amongst the top 50 free agents available this offseason. Obviously, we're all very curious to see what new GM Ken Holland will do. You would think he's looking to put his stamp on this team. After all, he was hired to get this team over the top. And despite his comments about how much he liked this team and he was very complimentary about the team and what they've done, if he could sign a big-time free agent, that would already put him in Kings history. As we've mentioned, the Kings don't sign big-time free agents. They've never done it, really, in their history, as far as I can tell. So if Ken Holland can do that, he would already put not only his stamp on next year's team, but his stamp in Kings history as a general manager who did something that all the guys before him did not do, and that is go out and get a big-time free agent in the summer. Personally, I'll believe it when I see it. So who are some names to keep in mind for the LA Kings for the upcoming NHL draft? We're going to get into that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NBA Finals are here, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there has never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and during the action with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments? How could tracking their trends help you build your next bet? What would it look like to get combine a live prop bet mid-game based on how the action is unfolding? If you've got a read on who's heating up, why not back it up with the same game parlay? How could a $200 in bonus bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we are 23 days away from the NHL draft right here in Los Angeles as we record this show. We are scheduled to have a special guest on our next show. Locked On NHL Prospects host Sebastian High will give us a breakdown of the players he believes could be available for the LA Kings to select with the 24th pick in the first round. Now, I have to say, I know nothing about these players, but I put together a list of names from Sebastian High's mock draft. I took the picks from number 22 to 27, figuring those guys were most likely the players that the Kings could select if Sebastian's mock draft is somewhere in the ballpark. And doing these little scouting reports on these players is at least getting me familiar with the names that we're going to see taken probably around where the Kings are selected. So I have a little bit more familiarity with these guys, and hopefully you will have some more familiarity with them too, because I'm guessing a lot of you are like me and that we just don't know these guys. So, according to Sebastian High, players who could be available for the LA Kings around pick number 24 include 3 forwards and 3 defensemen. We'll start with the forwards. Bill Zanin, who plays in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. Center Braden Kutz, who plays in the Western Hockey League. And winger Vaclav Nestrasil from Czechia. As for the 3 defensemen, you've got Sasha Boumedian out of Boston University, Cameron Reed, who plays in the OHL, and Blake Fiddler, who plays in the WHL. So we'll start with the player that Sebastian High thinks the Kings will select, and that is forward Bill Zanin. He is a Canadian playing for Rouyn-Noranda in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. He's a left shot left winger, 6'2", 190 pounds. This past season, he posted 83 points in 64 games, leading his team in scoring. He could play center or wing. And one scouting report said about Zanin, quote, his hockey sense and intensity jump off the page, end quote. He's also described as a strong skater and has a burst of speed. It is said he needs to be more consistent defensively, and his shot selection can sometimes be an issue, but he could be as high as middle of the first round or as late in the first round. But that is forward Bill Zanin of the Rouyn-Noranda Huskies of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. Bill Zanin. Our next forward is Braden Kutz. He is a Canadian center, 6 foot, 183 pounds. He's a right shot. He's playing in the Western Hockey League for the Seattle Thunderbirds. He is known for his excellent work ethic, and he's described as a player who, quote, makes things happen, end quote. He's also described as a player who plays hard no matter the situation. Despite his tenacity, he's also a pretty smart player. Only took 18 penalty minutes in 60 games, while also posting 26 goals and 63 points this past season. Braden Kutz is reliable defensively and can play in all situations. Not a very creative player offensively and lacks power on his shot. Also needs to work on his skating, but that is forward Braden Kutz, center for the Seattle Thunderbirds. Our final forward to mention is Vaclav Nestrasil, 6'5", 190 pounds. He's a right shot, right winger out of Czechia. He played this past season for the Muskegon Lumberjacks in the United States Hockey League. He's got the size, skating ability, and puck control that gets scouts excited, but he's not very strong, not great on puck battles, and needs work defensively. Now, he is coveted by some scouts and not so much by others. While our Sebastian High has him as a first-round pick, not every draft board has him as a first-rounder. Some have him going in the second round. He'll be heading to play at UMass Amherst next season. That is forward Vaclav Nestrasil from Czechia. Looking at the defensemen, our first guy up is Sasha Boumedian. He is from Sweden, but he's playing U.S. college hockey. He is 6'2", 183 pounds, a left shot defenseman playing at Boston University, playing for a program that has produced a slew of NHL players, including young NHL stars like Macklin Celebrini and Lane Hudson. Boumedian is known for his skating. He is an offensive defenseman that can run a power play. Known as a great skater, he's shown improvement defensively. Didn't have a great year in college, but a lot of people took notice with his play at the Under-18 World Championships when he scored 14 points in 5 games for Sweden. The question is, was that just a great run against some really good competition, or did what we see in his season in college kind of a little bit more of who he is. Regardless, offensive defenseman that has some talent, could be a first-round pick late in the first round. That is defenseman Sasha Boumedienne from Boston University. Our next defenseman is Cameron Reid. He's 6 foot, 190-pound Canadian, playing in the Ontario Hockey League for the Kitchener Rangers. Reid is a left shot defenseman. The scouting report on him lists him as a player that can, quote, do it all, end quote, as a two-way defenseman. His defensive game is listed as top notch. He's a player who has good gap control and takes good angles, according to the scouting report. Also says he's a good skater who can push the puck up the ice and lead the rush or make a nice outlet pass. For Reid, he is a bit smaller, needs to use positioning and intelligence to compete against bigger competition. That is defenseman Cameron Reid of the Kitchener Rangers. And our final player to take note of is defenseman Blake Fiddler. He's an American, 6'4", 215 pounds. He is the son of former NHL player Vernon Fiddler. He's playing in the Western Hockey League for the Edmonton Oil Kings. He is a right shot defenseman. He is described as a solid two-way player, but known more for his defensive side of the game. Didn't have big numbers as far as his stats this past season: 10 goals, 33 points in 64 games. He did play for the U.S. in the Under-18 World Junior Championships. Scouts love his size and skating ability. They say he's got a good hockey IQ, not a surprise being the son of a former NHL player, and is not afraid to be physical. If he can improve on his offensive side, he could be a steal in the later rounds. That is defenseman Blake Fiddler of the Edmonton Oil Kings. So those are 6 players, 6 names to get you familiar with them. We will get much more in depth and have a good conversation with our Locked On NHL Prospects host, Sebastian High. Coming up on our next show, we'll ask him all about what kind of draft this is, what positions are the deepest. Is this a top-heavy draft? How many kind of is it a deep draft, especially for a team like the Kings that's picking later on in the first round? All of his thoughts on what the LA Kings might do in this year's NHL draft. One LA Kings assistant coach is not going anywhere, and we still don't know about the Kings AHL head coach. That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. It is the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether you're snacking at your desk or on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. If you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios is a snack that works as hard as you do. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. The Pittsburgh Penguins announced on Wednesday they have hired a new head coach. It is former New York Rangers assistant Dan Muse. And that means that Kings assistant coach DJ Smith, who had interviewed for the job, will not be getting it. And so he will remain as an assistant with the LA Kings for next season. We have seen some assistant coaching changes across the NHL. So if the Kings were looking to make any changes to their coaching staff, you would think they would have announced it by now. The DJ Smith thing certainly was kind of the final thing to be sorted out. Now, I know a lot of people are critical of one assistant coach in particular for the LA Kings. That would be Newell Brown, who ran the team's forwards, and in particular the power play, which struggled all season. But things did turn around late in the season and in the playoffs once Andrei Kuzmenko joined the team, and then LA went to the 5-forward setup on the first unit. So I think when the organization announced they were going to retain head coach Jim Hiller and they showed faith in him, I think Hiller in turn wanted to show faith in his assistants that helped him to get that record-tying number of wins and points in the regular season. So I'm not surprised that it looks like there will be no changes on the Kings coaching staff for next season. Now that the Penguins have hired a new head coach, that leaves one NHL head coaching vacancy. That's in Boston, where Marco Sturm, head coach of the Kings AHL affiliate, the Ontario Reign, is reportedly a finalist, but still no official announcement as of yet. Other reports have listed Sturm as the favorite for the job. So if Marco Sturm obviously leaves, then the Kings will have to find a new head coach for their AHL affiliate in Ontario with the Reign. And so we'll see. We'll see if that comes down sometime this week. You would think it would. The Stanley Cup Finals are now underway. I am recording this show after the Edmonton Oilers won in overtime against the Florida Panthers. And interesting to watch this. Obviously, I am not rooting for the Oilers to win. I am definitely rooting for the Florida Panthers. But it is, I would say it doesn't make it any easier for me. Maybe it makes it easier for some other Kings fans to know that the team the Kings have been eliminated by the past 4 years, 2 of those seasons, that team's gone on to the Stanley Cup Final. So the translation is that the Oilers are pretty good and the Kings have been eliminated by a really good team. And I guess that's a good thing. The bad news is, though, that the Oilers aren't going anywhere. This really good team, barring some sort of catastrophic injury, is still going to have the core going forward. They're still going to have Connor McDavid. Yes, he's a free agent come next year, but he's not going anywhere. Leon Draisaitl's still going to be there. You would think that they would improve in net going forward at some point. When you look at kind of the weaknesses for them, they'll still have Evan Bouchard. They've got a lot of decent role players to go along with their big guns. So as a Kings fan, it is very interesting to watch this, especially when you wonder, and it's impossible not to wonder, if the Kings could have done what a lot of us thought they should have done. Would the Kings have gone on to have this success? If they could beat the Oilers in the first round, certainly we would think they'd have a decent chance of beating Vegas or Dallas, and who knows? But the bottom line is the Oilers may very well win the Stanley Cup this year. And I guess for some Kings fans, I could understand why they might say, hey, we lost to, a Stanley Cup champion. There's no shame in that. And I get that. But like I said, I think for me, and I'm not usually a glasses half empty kind of guy, but for me, when I look at this, I think, oh, geez, it's the road to get to where the Kings want to go is going to have to go through Edmonton. And even if the Kings don't face them in the first round because of the playoff format, you would think, if they don't finish second or third, that the Kings would have to face them eventually in the conference final. So, yeah, the Oilers are not going anywhere. And for the immediate future, the Kings, and this is maybe why, right? If you're Ken Holland and you know the Oilers well as the former GM of that team, this is probably why you need to go out and do something strong in this offseason to try and compete with that team. That team is really good. The results speak for themselves. They're a potential Stanley Cup winning team. They were within one win last year of winning it all. They may very well win it all this year, off to a 1-0 series lead against the Florida Panthers. So that would certainly seem to indicate, if you're the LA Kings, that if you really want to compete with that team, then you're going to have to go out and get better. You're going to have to go out and get some sort of a marquee player to be able to, I've talked about it, be in an arms race with the Edmonton Oilers. And yeah, you're not going to get another Connor McDavid and you're not going to get another Leon Draisaitl, but that doesn't mean you can't get a marquee player to help even things out a little bit, to help improve your team just that much, that maybe the next time around will be a different result. Hopefully that will be the case. All right. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen today. Your second listen needs to be Locked On NHL Game Night, a show that I will be co-hosting over the next couple of days. It is every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. All right, for you everydayers, those of you listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, I've promoted him a couple of times, but Sebastian High, host of Locked On NHL Prospects, is scheduled to be our guest on our next show. He's going to talk about the NHL draft and who he thinks the LA Kings might be selecting. If you want to contact this show, send an email to us. LockedOnEddie@gmail.com is the email address, EDDIE. If If you want to get in on the fan feedback show for this coming Friday, as always, you can leave your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. And we'd love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.